Jake Martinez walked through the tall grass outside New Crater City. The 16-year-old boy liked to explore the wild areas around his home. This planet, called Kepler 442b, was not like Earth. The sky had two suns, and strange purple plants grew everywhere. His mother always told him not to go too far from the city walls. "The aliens might see you," she would say. "And there are dangerous animals out there." But Jake was curious. He wanted to see what was beyond the safe zone. The human colony had been on this planet for 10 years. They came here because Earth was getting too crowded. The leaders said this new world would give them a fresh start. But they were not alone here. The Zephyrians lived on this planet first. They were tall blue people with big eyes that glowed in the dark. Most humans were scared of them. The aliens could read minds and talk without moving their mouths. Jake had only seen them a few times from far away. The two groups did not fight, but they did not talk much either. The humans stayed in their cities, and the Zephyrians stayed in their underground homes. Everyone said it was better this way. Jake reached the crystal caves at the edge of the valley. These caves were beautiful but dangerous. Sharp rocks hung from the ceiling like teeth. Strange lights flashed in the deep tunnels. His father had told him stories about the creatures that lived in the darkness below. He was about to turn back when he heard a sound. It was soft and sad, like someone crying. Jake stopped and listened. The sound came from inside the largest cave. His heart beat faster. He knew he should go home, but someone might be hurt and need help. Jake took out his small flashlight and walked into the cave. The tunnel went down into the mountain. Water dripped from the walls. Jake followed the crying sound deeper and deeper. His light showed strange paintings on the cave walls. They looked very old. After walking for 20 minutes, Jake found the source of the sound. A young Zephyrian girl lay on the ground near a pile of fallen rocks. She had long silver hair and blue skin that glowed softly. Her left leg was trapped under a heavy stone. Silver blood flowed from cuts on her arms and face. Her big purple eyes were closed. She looked like she was dying. Jake had never been this close to a Zephyrian before. She was smaller than he expected, maybe his age or younger. Despite what the adults said about aliens being dangerous, she just looked like a hurt person who needed help. He knelt down beside her. "Hey, can you hear me?" he whispered. The girl's eyes opened slowly. When she saw Jake, she tried to move away, but cried out in pain. She said something in her own language. It sounded like music. "I want to help you," Jake said. He pointed to himself. "Jake, my name is Jake." The girl stared at him for a long moment. Then she pointed to herself and said, "Lyra." Jake smiled. "Nice to meet you, Lyra. Let me get this rock off your leg." He put his hands on the stone that trapped her. It was heavy, but Jake was strong from working on his father's farm. He pushed and lifted until the rock rolled away. Lyra sat up slowly. She touched her leg and winced. It was hurt, but not broken. She looked at Jake with surprise, like she could not believe a human had helped her. That was when they heard the growl. The sound came from deep in the cave. It was low and hungry, like a giant cat that had not eaten for days. Both Jake and Lyra froze. Something big moved in the darkness beyond Jake's flashlight. Yellow eyes reflected the light. The creature growled again, closer this time. "What is that?" Jake whispered. Lyra's face went pale. She tried to stand but fell back down. Her leg could not hold her weight. She grabbed Jake's arm and said something urgent in her language. Jake did not understand her words, but he understood her fear. Whatever was coming toward them was very dangerous. The creature stepped into the light. Jake's breath caught in his throat. It was the biggest predator he had ever seen. The beast was as long as a car and had 6 powerful legs. Its black fur seemed to eat the light. Razor-sharp teeth filled its mouth. The locals called these things shadow maws. The shadow maws. Yellow eyes focused on Lyra. It could smell her silver blood. The creature took another step forward and licked its lips with a long purple tongue. Lyra could not run. Jake could run, but that would mean leaving her to die. He thought about his mother and father back home. They would never see him again, if he stayed. But he could not abandon someone who needed help. Jake stood up and moved between the Shadow Maw and Lyra. He had no weapons except his flashlight. The creature was 10 times stronger than him, but he would not let it hurt the girl. "Stay. Back!" Jake shouted at the beast. He waved his flashlight like a sword. The Shadow Maw looked confused. Humans usually ran away when they saw it. This small human boy was standing his ground. The creature tilted its head and studied Jake. Then it attacked. The Shadow Maw leaped forward. With incredible speed, Jake tried to dodge, but the beast was too fast. Its massive body slammed into him and knocked him to the ground. Pain shot through Jake's shoulder as the creature's fangs sank deep into his flesh. He screamed and hit the Shadow Maw's head with his flashlight. The beast shook him like a dog with a toy. But something strange happened. Instead of tearing Jake apart, the Shadow Maw suddenly let go and stepped back. It looked confused and scared. Jake felt the creature's venom flowing into his blood. His shoulder burned like fire. He should have been getting weak and dying. Instead, he felt energy rushing through his body. His muscles grew stronger. His vision became clearer. Power filled every part of him. Jake stood up slowly. The Shadow Maw backed away from him, whimpering like a frightened puppy. Even Lyra stared at him with wide eyes. "What's happening to me?" Jake whispered. He felt different, changed, like something inside him had been sleeping and was now waking up. The Shadow Maw turned and ran back into the deep caves. Jake picked up Lyra carefully and carried her toward the cave entrance. She was light in his new, strong arms. As they walked back to the surface, Jake knew his life would never be the same. The bite had done something to him, something that would change everything. Jake carried Lyra through the colony gates just as the second sun was setting. The guards saw them and ran over quickly. They had never seen a human carrying a Zephyrian before. "Get Dr. Carter," one guard shouted. "Bring her to the medical center, right now!" People gathered around them as Jake walked through the streets. Everyone stared at the alien girl in his arms. Some looked scared, others looked angry. "Why did you bring one of them here?" an old man asked. "She was hurt," Jake said simply. "She needed help." Dr. Lisa Carter met them at the medical center door. She was a kind woman with gray hair who had been taking care of the colonists since they arrived. Her eyes went wide when she saw Lyra. "Bring her inside quickly," Dr. Carter said. "Put her on the bed in room 3. Jake laid Lyra down gently. The alien girl was awake but weak. She looked around the human medical center with curious eyes. "What happened to you?" Dr. Carter asked Jake. She noticed the blood on his shirt and the torn fabric around his shoulder. "A Shadow Maw bit me," Jake said. "But I feel fine." Dr. Carter's face went pale. "A Shadow Maw. Jake, those bites are deadly. People die in minutes from the poison." "I know, but look at me. I'm not dying." Dr. Carter made Jake sit on another bed. She cut away his shirt to look at the bite marks. 2 deep holes went through his shoulder, but they were already healing. New skin was growing over the wounds. "This is impossible," Dr. Carter whispered. She took some of Jake's blood for testing. "Shadow Maw venom should have killed you 3 times over." While Dr. Carter worked, Jake watched Lyra. The alien girl was looking at him with her big purple eyes. She seemed to be trying to tell him something without words. Suddenly, Jake heard a voice in his head. It was soft and musical, like Lyra's speaking voice. "Thank you for saving me," the voice said. Jake jumped. "Did you just talk to me? In my mind?" Lyra nodded. "Zephyrians can speak with thoughts, but you should not be able to hear me. Humans cannot use mind talk." "I heard you clearly," Jake said. "How is that possible?" "I do not know. Your mind feels different now. It burns like a bright star." Dr. Carter came back with Jake's test results. Her hands were shaking as she read the computer screen. "Jake, your blood has changed completely," she said. "Your cells are different, stronger. They're healing faster than anything I've ever seen." "What does that mean?" Jake asked. "I'm not sure. The Shadow Maw venom should have destroyed your blood cells. Instead, it seems to have made them better." Administrator Richard Stone walked into the medical center. He was a thin man with cold eyes who did not like taking risks. "Dr. Carter, what is this alien doing in our medical facility?" Stone demanded. "She was injured. Jake brought her here for help," Dr. Carter explained. Stone looked at Jake with anger. "You had no right to bring one of them into our city. They could be dangerous." "She's just a girl," Jake said. "She was hurt and needed help." "We don't know what diseases they carry. She could make our whole colony sick." Lyra spoke up in her musical voice. "I carry no sickness. My people are clean." Stone jumped back. "It can speak our language?" "All Zephyrians learn human words," Lyra said. "We study your people." This made Stone even more angry. "See? They spy on us. Get this creature out of our city right now." "No," Jake said firmly. "She stays until she's better." Stone stared at the teenage boy. "You don't give orders here, child. I run this colony." Jake stood up from the medical bed. He felt power flowing through his muscles. His eyes met Stone's without fear. "She's not leaving," Jake said quietly. Something in Jake's voice made Stone step backward. The administrator looked confused and a little scared. Captain Amy Rodriguez entered the room at that moment. She was the head of colony security, a strong woman with short black hair and smart eyes. "What's all the shouting about?" Captain Rodriguez asked. Dr. Carter explained everything that had happened. Captain Rodriguez listened carefully and looked at both Jake and Lyra. "The boy did the right thing," Rodriguez said finally. "We help people who are hurt. That's what makes us human." Stone's face turned red. "That thing is not people. It's an alien." "She's a person," Jake said. "Just different from us." As the adults argued, Jake felt something strange happening in his mind. Pictures flashed before his eyes, but they were not his memories. He saw great battles in space. Ships made of living metal fought against sleek silver vessels. Planets burned. Billions of people died. In the middle of it all were creatures like Lyra, fighting for their lives. The images were so real that Jake felt like he was there. He could smell the smoke and hear the screams. "Jake? Jake, are you all right?" Dr. Carter's voice brought him back to the present. "I saw something," Jake said slowly. "A war. In space. With ships and aliens fighting." Lyra sat up quickly on her bed. You saw the memory pictures? How? What memory pictures? Jake asked. Sometimes Zephyrians share old memories through mind touch, but humans cannot see them. Dr. Carter ran more tests on Jake. His brain waves were different now. New pathways were forming between his neurons. Jake, the bite changed more than your blood, Dr. Carter said. It changed your brain, too. Over the next few hours, Jake's abilities grew stronger. He could hear Lyra's thoughts clearly now. He could feel when people were lying. His reflexes became incredibly fast. When a nurse dropped a glass of water, Jake caught it before it hit the floor. He moved so quickly that everyone gasped. "This is impossible," Dr. Carter said. "Humans can't move that fast." "The venom is still changing him," Lyra explained. "Your people have something special in their blood, something my people call the catalyst gene." "What's that?" Captain Rodriguez asked. "It lets humans change and grow when they need to. Most humans never use it, but when danger comes, some humans can become something more." Stone laughed nastily. Ridiculous alien superstition. But Jake was not listening to Stone anymore. More memory pictures were filling his mind. He saw the truth about what was coming to their world. In the visions, massive dark ships moved between the stars. They were not ships really, but living creatures the size of cities. They ate planets and left nothing behind but empty space. The creatures in his vision were called the Devourers. They had been hunting across the galaxy for thousands of years. They destroyed every world they found, and they were coming here. "Lyra," Jake said urgently. "The Devourers. They're real, aren't they?" Lyra's face went white with fear. "How do you know that name? I can see your people's memories. The war, the hiding. The Devourers are coming back." "What are you two talking about?" Captain Rodriguez demanded. Jake turned to face the adults. His eyes were different now, older and more serious. "There's something you all need to know," he said. "We're in terrible danger." Jake spent the next 3 days in the medical center while Dr. Carter studied his changing body. His strength kept growing. His healing got faster. Most importantly, his connection with Lyra became stronger. Through her memories, he learned the true history of Kepler 442b. The Zephyrians had not always lived underground. Once, they had beautiful cities on the surface with tall towers that touched the clouds. But then the Devourers came. They appeared without warning, Lyra told Jake through their mind link. Hundreds of living ships, each one the size of a mountain. They didn't want our gold or our land. They wanted our life energy. The memory pictures showed Jake how the Devourers fed. Their ships would land on a planet and send out long tentacles that dug deep into the ground. The tentacles sucked out all the life force from every plant, animal, and person. My people fought them for many years, Lyra continued, but we were not warriors. We were artists and thinkers. The Devourers were made for war. Jake saw images of the final battle. The last Zephyrian city burning while their people fled underground. The Devourers took what they wanted and left the surface world empty and dead. That was 500 years ago, Lyra said. My people have been hiding in caves ever since. We thought the Devourers were gone forever. But they're coming back? Jake asked. Lyra nodded sadly. Our far sensors detected them 3 days ago. A great fleet moving toward this system. They will be here in 1 week. Jake felt sick. We have to warn everyone. But when Jake told the colony leaders about the coming danger, most of them did not believe him. This is nonsense, Richard Stone said at the emergency meeting. The boy is hallucinating from the alien poison. The tests show his brain is functioning normally, Dr. Carter argued. Better than normal, actually. Captain Rodriguez studied the data on her computer screen. Our long-range sensors aren't picking up anything unusual. Your sensors aren't strong enough, Jake said. The Zephyrians have better equipment. They've been watching space for 500 years. Even if this is true, Stone said, what can we do? We're just farmers and miners. We don't have warships. We can fight, Jake said. Humans and Zephyrians together. Stone laughed. Work with the aliens? Impossible. We don't even speak the same language. I can speak both languages now, Jake said. I can help them work together. Over the next few days, Jake's abilities continued to grow. He could now sense emotions from far away. When he touched someone, he could share his enhanced reflexes with them for a short time. Most amazing of all, he found he could connect human minds with Zephyrian minds. When he held hands with both a human and a Zephyrian, they could understand each other perfectly. Captain Rodriguez saw the value in this. She was one of the few leaders who took the threat seriously. If the Devourers are really coming, we need every advantage we can get, she told Jake privately. Can you bring some Zephyrians here to talk? Jake asked Lyra to contact her people. That evening, 3 adult Zephyrians came to the colony. They moved like ghosts in the darkness, their blue skin glowing softly. The meeting took place in the colony's main hall. Most humans were too scared to attend, but Captain Rodriguez and Dr. Carter were there. Jake sat between the two groups, translating thoughts and emotions. The lead Zephyrian was an old male named Theron. He was Lyra's father and the leader of his people. Through Jake, he told the humans about the approaching danger. The Devourer fleet is vast, Theron said. 300 living ships, each one capable of destroying a city. They will drain this world dry and move on to the next. How do you know so much about them? Captain Rodriguez asked. We have fought them before. My grandfather lived through the last war. The knowledge has been passed down through generations. Jake felt a memory forming in Theron's mind. It was about ancient allies who had helped the Zephyrians long ago. There were others, Jake said suddenly. Another race that fought the Devourers. Theron's eyes went wide. How do you know about the architects? I can see it in your memories. They built weapons to fight the Devourers. Yes. The architects were master builders. They created devices that could hurt the living ships. But the architects disappeared mysteriously during the war. What happened to their weapons? Captain Rodriguez asked. Hidden. Scattered across many worlds. The locations were lost when the architects vanished. Jake closed his eyes and let his mind wander through the shared memories of the Zephyrians. Somewhere in their racial memory was information about the hidden weapons. Images flashed through his consciousness. A map of stars, coordinates, mathematical formulas, and finally, a location. There's one here, Jake said suddenly. On this planet, deep underground. Theron stood up quickly. That's impossible. We have lived here for 5 centuries. We would know if architect technology was buried beneath us. It's there, Jake said with certainty. I can feel it. Far below the crystal caves where I found Lyra. That night, Jake led an expedition to the caves. Captain Rodriguez brought 6 soldiers. Theron brought 3 Zephyrian warriors. Dr. Carter came too, curious to see what they might find. The group went deeper into the cave system than anyone had gone before. Jake's enhanced senses led them through passages that seemed to go on forever. After hours of walking, they found it. Behind a wall of crystal was a massive metal door. Strange symbols covered its surface. The metal was not rusted or damaged, despite being buried for thousands of years. "Architect writing," Theron whispered. "I have seen this in the old books." Jake stepped forward and placed his hand on the door. The symbols began to glow with soft blue light. There was a deep rumbling sound, and the door opened. Beyond was a vast underground chamber filled with incredible technology. Machines hummed quietly in the darkness. Lights flickered on as they entered. "My God," Dr. Carter breathed. "This place is huge." The chamber was the size of a football stadium. Curved walls reached up into shadows above. Strange devices lined the walls, their purpose unclear but their power obvious. In the center of the room was a platform with a chair-like device on it. The chair seemed to be made for someone human-sized, not the tall architects. "This was built for you," Theron told. "Jake, the architects knew humans would come here someday." Jake approached the chair carefully. When he got close, holographic displays appeared in the air around it. The images showed star maps, weapon designs, and battle plans. But one image made Jake's blood run cold. It showed the current solar system with red dots approaching from deep space. The Devourer fleet. According to the display, they would arrive in 4 days. "We're almost out of time," Jake said. "What do these weapons do?" Captain Rodriguez asked, studying the holographic displays. Jake touched the chair and felt knowledge flowing into his mind. The architects had built 3 types of weapons: shield generators that could protect cities, energy cannons that could damage the living ships, and something else. Something much more powerful. "There's a transformation chamber," Jake said slowly. "It can change a person into something new. Something that can fight the Devourers directly." "Change how?" Dr. Carter asked. "It combines human and Zephyrian traits into one being. Someone who could unite both races and lead them in battle." Theron looked worried. "The old legends speak of such a being, a bridge-walker who could connect all minds into one network. But the transformation is dangerous. It might kill the person who tries it." Jake stared at the chair. He could feel its power calling to him. Part of him was excited by the possibility. Another part was terrified. "The Devourers will be here in 4 days," he said. "We don't have time to think of another plan." Captain Rodriguez put her hand on Jake's shoulder. "We'll figure out another way. You're just a kid. We can't ask you to risk your life like that." But Jake was thinking about Lyra lying hurt in the cave, about all the humans and Zephyrians who would die if the Devourers came, about his parents and friends back in the colony. "Maybe I'm just a kid," he said, "but I'm the only one who can do this." As they left the underground chamber, Jake knew what he had to do. The question was whether he would have the courage to do it when the time came. The next morning, Jake woke up to sirens blaring across New Crater City. He ran outside and saw people pointing at the sky. Dark shapes were moving between the stars, too far away to see clearly but close enough to cause panic. "Devourer scouts," Lyra said, joining him outside the medical center. "They come ahead of the main fleet to study their prey." Captain Rodriguez gathered everyone in the colony's main square. Her face was grim as she spoke to the crowd. "Long-range sensors have confirmed what Jake warned us about," she announced. "An unknown fleet is approaching our system. We have 3 days to prepare." The crowd erupted in frightened voices. Some people demanded to know why they hadn't been told sooner. Others wanted to evacuate the planet immediately. "Where can we go?" someone shouted. "Our ships can't travel between stars." "We're trapped here," another person cried. Richard Stone pushed his way to the front of the crowd. "This is all the boy's fault," he pointed at Jake. "He brought the alien here and somehow called these creatures to us." "That's not true," Jake said firmly. "The Devourers were coming anyway. Lyra's people detected them days ago." "Lies," Stone yelled. "I say we give the alien back to her people and hope these invaders leave us alone." Many people in the crowd nodded agreement. Fear was making them look for someone to blame. Captain Rodriguez held up her hand for silence. "Fighting among ourselves won't help. We need to work together if we want to survive." "Work with the aliens?" Stone laughed bitterly. "They're probably in league with these Devourers. This could all be a trap." Jake felt anger rising in his chest. His enhanced senses could feel the fear and hatred from the crowd. But he also sensed something else from some people: hope and determination. "The Zephyrians are not our enemies," Jake said, his voice carrying across the square. "They've been hiding from the Devourers for 500 years. They want to survive, just like we do." An old woman named Betty Miller stepped forward. She had always been kind to Jake. "What do you think we should do, son?" Jake looked around at all the frightened faces. These were good people: farmers, teachers, mechanics, families with children. They deserved a chance to live. "We need to combine our strengths," Jake said. "Humans are good at building and fighting. Zephyrians are good at planning and mind work. Together, we might have a chance." "The boy is right," said a gruff voice from the back. Everyone turned to see Tom Bradley, the colony's chief engineer. "I've worked with alien technology before. It's different from ours, but not impossible to understand." Dr. Carter spoke up next. "Jake's transformation proves that humans and Zephyrians can be compatible. Maybe our differences are actually advantages." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "I'm willing to try an alliance, but we need volunteers. This will be dangerous." About half the crowd stepped forward, including some Jake hadn't expected. Mrs. Peterson, his old teacher, Danny Kim from the machine shop, even Sarah Williams, who was only 18 and had a baby at home. "Why are you volunteering?" Jake asked Sarah. "Because I want my daughter to grow up in a free world," she said simply. That afternoon, Theron brought 50 Zephyrian warriors to the colony. They were tall and graceful, carrying weapons that looked like crystal spears. The humans stared at them nervously. Jake stood between the two groups again, using his abilities to help them understand each other. It was slow work. Humans thought in straight lines and practical terms. Zephyrians thought in curves and emotions. But gradually they began to work together. Tom Bradley and a Zephyrian engineer named Kess figured out how to combine human computers with Zephyrian crystal technology. The result was a communication system that let both races talk clearly. Captain Rodriguez and the Zephyrian war leader Vel planned defensive positions around the colony. They decided to use the crystal caves as a fortress where civilians could hide. Dr. Carter worked with Zephyrian healers to set up medical stations. She learned that Zephyrian medicine could heal wounds that human medicine couldn't touch. While the adults worked on preparations, Jake trained with volunteers from both races. He found that when he touched someone, he could temporarily share his enhanced abilities with them. A human farmer named Pete Johnson suddenly had reflexes fast enough to dodge laser blasts. A young Zephyrian named Rix gained the stubborn determination that made humans never give up. "This is amazing," Dr. Carter said, watching the training. "You're creating temporary hybrids." "It only lasts for a few hours," Jake explained. "And it makes me very tired. I can only do it with a few people at a time." On the second day, the Devourer scouts attacked. 3 small ships, each one the size of a house, descended from the clouds. They looked like giant insects made of black metal and flesh. Tentacles writhed underneath them, tasting the air. The first scout ship landed near the wheat fields outside the colony. Immediately, the crops began to wither and die as the ship drained their life energy. "All fighters to positions!" Captain Rodriguez commanded. Jake ran toward the landing site with 20 human volunteers and 30 Zephyrian warriors. As they got closer, the scout ship opened like a flower. Creatures poured out. The Devourer soldiers were nightmares made real. They walked on 4 legs but had arms like humans. Their skin was black and wet. Instead of faces, they had round mouths full of sharp teeth. "Stay together!" Jake shouted. "Use the formation we practiced." The combined force attacked as one unit, humans with their guns and explosives, Zephyrians with their crystal spears and mind attacks. Jake moved between them, enhancing their abilities and coordinating their actions. It worked. The Devourer soldiers were tough, but they had never faced this kind of cooperation before. They expected their enemies to fight separately and get confused. Instead, the humans and Zephyrians moved like dancers in perfect rhythm. When a human got tired, a Zephyrian covered for them. When a Zephyrian got overwhelmed, humans provided, covering fire. The first scout ship was destroyed in 30 minutes, but the victory came at a cost. 5 humans were injured and 2 Zephyrians were badly hurt. Jake realized that the scouts were just testing their defenses. The real fleet would be much stronger. That night, Jake sat with Lyra on a hill overlooking the colony. Lights twinkled below them as both races worked together to prepare for the coming battle. "Are you scared?" Lyra asked him. "Terrified," Jake admitted. "But also excited. Look at what we've accomplished in just 2 days. Humans and Zephyrians, working as one team. The transformation chamber in the underground facility," Lyra said quietly. "You're thinking about using it, aren't you?" Jake nodded. "I have to. Tomorrow the main fleet arrives. We need every advantage we can get." "The process might kill you," Lyra warned. "Even if it works, you won't be the same Jake anymore. You'll be something new." "I know," Jake said. "But if I don't try, everyone I care about will die. That's not really a choice at all." Lyra took his hand. "I want you to know something. My people have a prophecy about the Bridgewalker. It says he will bring peace between the races and lead them to victory against the Dark Ones." "Prophecies aren't always true," Jake said. "This one is," Lyra said firmly, "because I've seen your heart. You don't want power or glory. You just want to protect people. That's what makes you special." As the second sun set behind the mountains, Jake made his final decision. Tomorrow, he would enter the transformation chamber and become something the galaxy had never seen before. He just hoped. He would still be himself when it was over. The main Devourer fleet arrived at dawn on the 3rd day. Jake watched from the hilltop as hundreds of massive shapes blotted out the stars. Each living ship was the size of a city, pulsing with dark energy. "Dear God," Captain Rodriguez whispered, beside him. "How are we supposed to fight that?" The ships began descending toward the planet's surface. As they got closer, Jake could see their true horror. They were not machines, but giant creatures with thick armor and countless tentacles. Their mouths could swallow buildings whole. They're beautiful in a terrible way, Lyra said sadly, like sharks or poisonous flowers. The first ship landed 20 miles from New Crater City. Immediately, the land around it began to change. Trees withered and died. The grass turned black. Even the rocks seemed to lose their color. They're draining the life force from everything they touch, Theron explained. In a few hours, this entire continent will be dead. Jake felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Thousands of people were counting on him. Both human and Zephyrian families huddled in the crystal caves, hoping their combined forces could somehow win. It's time, Jake said quietly. The group made their way down to the hidden architect facility. The transformation chamber was exactly as they had left it, waiting patiently for someone brave enough to use it. Jake's parents were there, having finally learned what their son was planning to do. His mother cried and begged him not to go through with it. His father stood silent, proud, but heartbroken. I have to do this, Jake told them. It's the only way to save everyone. Dr. Carter had studied the chamber for 2 days. The process will rewrite your DNA completely, she explained. You'll gain abilities from both races, but we don't know what the side effects might be. Will I still be me? Jake asked. I don't. No, Dr. Carter admitted. The architect records are incomplete. Jake hugged his parents one last time. Then he hugged Lyra, feeling her tears on his shoulder. Remember who you are, she whispered in his mind. No matter what happens, remember that you chose to help others. Jake walked to the transformation chamber and sat down in the waiting chair. The moment he touched the armrests, the machine came to life. Lights flashed. Energy hummed through the air. Scanning subject, a voice said in his head. It was the machine's artificial intelligence, speaking in perfect English. Human Zephyrian hybrid detected, proceeding with full transformation. Pain shot through Jake's body as the machine began its work. He felt his cells breaking apart and rebuilding themselves. His bones stretched and strengthened. His muscles grew denser, but the mental changes were even more dramatic. Jake's consciousness expanded like a balloon being filled with air. Suddenly, he could feel the minds of everyone in the caves below, humans and Zephyrians alike, all connected to his awareness. The transformation lasted for 10 minutes, though it felt like hours to Jake. When it ended, he stood up slowly and looked at himself. He was taller now, with silver streaks in his dark hair. His skin had a faint blue glow like a Zephyrian's. Most importantly, his eyes had changed. They held the wisdom of both races and the determination of someone who would never give up. Jake? His mother asked, uncertainly. I'm still me, Mom, Jake said, and his voice carried harmonics that resonated in everyone's mind. Just more than I was before. Jake could feel the devourer ships approaching the caves. Their hunger was like a cold wind that chilled his soul. But he could also feel something else, the dormant potential in every human on the planet. They're coming, Captain Rodriguez reported over the radio. 3 ships heading directly for our position. Jake walked to the cave entrance with purpose. Behind him came his friends and family, ready to follow him into battle. The first devourer ship landed outside the crystal caves. It was enormous up close, like a mountain made of flesh and metal. Tentacles reached out toward the cave entrance. Seeking the life energy within, Jake stepped out to face the creature alone. I am the Bridgewalker, he announced, his voice carrying across the battlefield. I speak for both humans and Zephyrians. Leave this world now, or face the consequences. The ship's response was to attack. A massive tentacle whipped toward Jake, fast enough to crush a car. But Jake caught it in his bare hands. The tentacle was stronger than steel cables and weighed tons. But Jake's new strength was beyond anything the Devourers had encountered. He held the appendage steady and began to squeeze. Black blood flowed from the wounded tentacle. The ship let out a sound like a wail in pain. Other tentacles lashed out at Jake, but he moved with impossible speed, dodging and striking back. More Devourer ships landed around the battlefield. Their soldiers poured out in waves, hundreds of the nightmare creatures with their 4 legs and round mouths full of teeth. That was when Jake did something that changed everything. He reached out with his enhanced mind and touched every human, consciousness on the planet. In that moment, he awakened the dormant catalyst gene in all of them. Across New Crater City and the surrounding settlements, people suddenly felt power flowing through their bodies. Farmers became as strong as machines. Teachers gained reflexes faster than computers. Children developed the ability to sense danger from miles away. The change was not as dramatic as Jake's transformation, but it was enough. Humanity was no longer helpless against the Devourers. Jake's father grabbed a mining laser and found he could aim it with perfect accuracy. Jake's mother helped organize civilians and discovered she could coordinate dozens of people through pure thought. Captain Rodriguez led a charge against the Devourer soldiers and found her squad moving in perfect synchronization. Every human seemed to know exactly what their teammates were thinking. The Zephyrians were amazed. Through Jake's mental network, they could finally communicate clearly with humans. The two races fought as one people, sharing thoughts and emotions in real time, but the battle was far from over. The Devourer ships were powerful, and there were hundreds of them. For every ship they destroyed, 2 more landed to take its place. Jake realized that winning individual battles wasn't enough. He needed to strike at the source of the Devourer's power. Using his enhanced senses, Jake reached out across space and found the Devourer command ship hiding behind the planet's largest moon. It was different from the others. Older, more intelligent, and filled with malevolent consciousness. Jake gathered his power and projected his mind across the void. The command ship's intelligence was vast and cold, like a computer made of ice. But it had never encountered anything like human stubbornness combined with Zephyrian wisdom. The mental battle lasted only seconds in real time, but it felt like hours to Jake. He attacked with every ounce of determination and protective instinct he possessed. The Devourer mind tried to overwhelm him with images of destroyed worlds and extinct civilizations. But Jake held on to one simple thought. He would not let the people he loved be hurt. That thought, backed by the combined will of every human and Zephyrian on the planet, proved stronger than the Devourer's ancient hunger. The command ship's consciousness shattered like glass. Across the battlefield, the attacking ships suddenly stopped moving. Their soldiers collapsed as if their strings had been cut. The great fleet that had seemed unstoppable just moments before was now dead in space. Jake fell to his knees, exhausted by the mental effort. But around him, humans and Zephyrians cheered together. They had won. In the weeks that followed, the two races worked together to rebuild what the Devourers had damaged. The alliance that had begun in desperation became something stronger, a true partnership between species. Jake found that his transformation had changed him permanently, but not in a bad way. He was still himself, just expanded. He could see the beauty in both human determination and Zephyrian grace. Most importantly, the awakening he had triggered in humanity spread to other worlds. Human colonies across the galaxy began developing enhanced abilities. The species that had once been scattered and weak was becoming something magnificent. Lyra stood with Jake on the hilltop where they had first talked about the coming war. Below them, the lights of a rebuilt city twinkled in the darkness. Human and Zephyrian families lived side by side now, their children playing together in the streets. "You did it," Lyra said softly. "You became the bridge walker the prophecies spoke about." Jake smiled and took her hand. "We all did it, humans and Zephyrians together." "What happens now?" Lyra asked. Jake looked up at the stars, where other human worlds were beginning their own transformations. Humanity was taking its first steps toward becoming the galaxy's protectors. "Now we make sure this never happens again," Jake said. "We find other races who need help. We build something better than what came before." The boy who had once been afraid to venture beyond his colony's walls was gone. In his place stood someone ready to defend not just one world, but an entire galaxy, and he would not be fighting alone. Humanity had finally awakened to its true potential, and the universe would never be the same.